I mean, while we are cheering this fall back home in India, how do you look at the trend that's building here? Do you think speculation can extend or swing the trade on the other side for oil? Could it get more extended out from here? I mean, could 60 and below be a reality?
Good morning. So, yes, I think that is indeed a very good question to ask, especially in India, because if you are to say that this kind of levels, Brent at low 60s and WTI in the mid-50s today, is that going to sustain? I would say most likely not. The reason, so first of all, the reason, you did outline the reasons quite well just now, but I would say right now in the driver's seat is this panic in the broader financial markets. And, could that continue? Most certainly. Could that make things even worse? Bigger falls in the stock markets and bigger slumps, further slumps in oil prices? That is likely as well. However, I think especially the sharp fall that we saw last week of more than 4%, and it seems to have, and again repeated yesterday, I think that has made it more than certain, in my view, that the OPEC, non-OPEC combine of producers will take a decision to curb output when they meet in December.
So you're saying there is a possibility, Vandana, that crude may cool off further from here?
It is very likely because, look, what we're seeing in the broader financial markets is now basically all bets are off. It's very hard. Though we can see people have started calling for, buying to come back in, bargain hunting to come back in. But it's just that the uncertainty is so huge. I mean, if you just look at the expectations for Fed rate hikes, while the December hike is pretty much priced in, for 2019, the expectations are swinging in a rather wide range. And the reason I talk about the Fed rate hike is it's now very, very directly connected with oil prices. So if there is a further rate hike that's, let's say, on the more aggressive side of 4 hikes in 2019, that's going to put an immense pressure. And even before it puts pressure on the financial markets, on corporate earnings and so on, it's going to put immense pressure sentiment-wise on the financial markets, and that is quite capable of dragging crude further down. The only caveat is what happens between now and December 6th, because any further falls, I would say, would be contained within this window. As I said earlier, December 6th, I do expect OPEC and non-OPEC to cut supply, and I think that will put a floor under crude prices.
Vandana, closing comments, whereas today we are celebrating a crack in crude because India is an oil consumer. Do you think the crude sell-off is not going to be isolated, because history tells us that when crude declines, it is going to be a larger fear of slowdown in the world, which means crude may start the decline in commodities, but then copper, nickel, metal, tin, aluminum, everything will have to, follow soon.
Yes, indeed. When crude falls because of not necessarily just worries about oversupply, which are very much there in 2019, but more importantly, worries of an economic slowdown, and as a result of that slowdown in global oil demand growth, that is exactly the scenario where you see a lot of commodities coming off as well. I think where the crude and the rest of the commodities probably diverge is that in the case of crude, you have an organization like OPEC and its alliance with non-OPEC that will try to put the floor, that will do everything, I think, that they can to stop this a continuing rout, which is not quite the same for the rest of the commodities. Something else I'll just throw in there, also important to keep in mind, is what is the economic outlook that OPEC decides to go with? Because right now there are fears of a slowdown. IMF did revise last month its expectations lower, but only a little bit lower for 2019. So OPEC will be careful. I think if there is an actual major economic slowdown, I think they will be careful not to cut back too much, because they would not want to seem greedy or hawkish on prices while the world economy is slowing down. But again, it all boils down to the question, who can say with any certainty how much of an economic growth or slowdown we're actually going to see in 2019? So I think a lot of uncertainty ahead on that count.
All right, Vandana, thanks very much for joining us and giving us that perspective. I think there's a lot of conjecture at work here. Very hard to call the crude market, but you're going to be looking at, I mean, perhaps trade extending out in the reverse order. So from talking 100, I think now we're going to be talking 50 soon enough on crude, because that's how speculation in that market works. There's a bit of a swing factor when it comes to how OPEC manages supplies and what approach the US takes on supplies as well. And I think that's a key determinant in how crude prices are managed. Other than that,